Welcome. I'd really appreciate if you could drop a comment with your thoughts and reactions as you listen. Your feedback helps me craft better stories for you. Sheriff Tom Wilson rubbed his tired eyes as he scrolled through the latest posts on Malice's domain. The dark website had been taunting Willow Creek for over a week with vague threats of harm directed at the townsfolk. At first, Tom dismissed them as idle chatter, the ramblings of bored teenagers looking to stir up trouble from behind a screen. But now, he wasn't so sure. The latest threat targeted Amy Wilson, the 16-year-old daughter of his neighbor John. It stated she would disappear from the creekside path during her evening jog, never to be seen again. Tom wanted to believe it was just another empty boast, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at his gut. He picked up his radio. "Jake, meet me at the Wilson property. I've got a bad feeling about this." When they arrived, the path was empty. Tom shone his flashlight into the surrounding woods, calling Amy's name to no response. He spotted drag marks in the dirt leading into the dense undergrowth. "Damn it," he muttered. This was no joke. Amy was gone, and he had tarried too long dismissing the online threats. News spread fast in a small town. By morning, Willow Creek was in an uproar. Tom ordered a search of the surrounding forest while he returned to the station to pore over the case files. The posts on Malice's domain showed an intimate knowledge of the victims and the timing of events, but the users were anonymous. Trying to track them down felt like chasing ghosts. He pulled up the latest threat, posted an hour ago. John Cooper's prized truck will meet an accident on Old Mill Road at dusk. Tom grabbed his keys. "Jake, with me now." They sped to Old Mill Road and found John's truck, smashed against a tree, talons of blue smoke curling from the crumpled hood. "Who the hell is doing this?" Tom growled, slamming his fist on the dashboard in frustration. Someone in Willow Creek was manipulating people from behind a screen, and they were one step ahead at every turn. As night fell with still no sign of Amy, the pressure intensified to find her and unmask the puppet master pulling the town strings. But how do you stop a threat when it seems to know your every move before you do? Tom was starting to fear the perpetrator was closer than any of them realized, hidden in plain sight among the people he had sworn to protect. Jake surveyed the wreckage of John's totaled truck as the sun dipped below the tree line. "Whoever did this knew his routine," he said grimly. "John takes this route home from work every day at this time." Tom nodded, lost in thought. All the victims had been targeted intimately. First, the threats, then carried out right on schedule. It was as if the perpetrator was watching their every move. An idea struck him. Get everyone who was involved in the search for Amy to the station for questioning. Leave no stone unturned. One by one, Tom and Jake interviewed the volunteers. Most alibis checked out, but one man raised Tom's hackles. New to town, Paul Rogers claimed to help solely out of neighborly duty, yet he knew details only the perp could. When pushed, Paul grew agitated. "I'm telling you, I just want to help find that girl." Before Tom could press further, the radio crackled. Another threat had materialized. Edith Parker's prized roses lay crushed underfoot in her garden. Tom and Jake raced to her home, but the garden was untouched. Edith was distraught. "It has to be a mistake. No one would do this to me." A mistake or a diversion? Tom realized with dread the true target must be elsewhere. He called dispatch. No new reports. Then it hit him. The profile fit most in town, and one person was missing. Paul Rogers. They burst into his home, but it was empty. On a hunch, Tom checked the computer. The latest threat was still open on Paul's browser. A trace led them deep into the woods, to an abandoned hunting cabin. Faint cries echoed within. Tom and Jake drew their weapons and kicked in the door. Amy Wilson lay bound and gagged on the floor, while Paul stood over her, syringe in hand. "It was just a game," he cried. dropping the needle. At the station, Paul confessed. Lonely and bored in his new town, he'd sought companionship on the dark web. There, he'd found like-minded souls who derived pleasure from manipulating people online. Inspired, he'd crafted anonymous threats, targeting Willow Creek residents, thrilled by how easily their strings could be pulled. But it was never supposed to go this far, Paul said, hanging his head. Once the threat started coming true, I couldn't stop. I just wanted to feel in control for once. Tom felt only pity for the man. In his bid for power, Paul had shattered the safety of an entire community and traumatized a young girl. His games were over. Willow Creek could finally breathe easy once more. As the sun rose on a new day, Tom surveyed his town from the crest of Oak Hill, grateful the nightmare was at an end. But a niggling doubt remained. If Paul's twisted games had spread so far unnoticed, how many other faceless puppeteers lurked in the digital shadows, pulling humanity's strings for their own dark amusement? The online world's boundaries were ever expanding, and so too the opportunities for human malice to creep unchecked into the real one. It was a sobering thought for the sheriff of a small town. The threats were over, but their realities may have only just begun. Alice sighed as she scanned the papers scattered across her desk. Midterms were over, but grading never seemed to end. A knock at the door pulled her from the sea of scribbled essays and multiple-choice bubbles. "Come in," she called, rubbing her tired eyes. The door creaked open to reveal Emma Clark, shoulders hunched and eyes downcast. Alice's concern spiked at the girl's appearance. Once a lively student, Emma had withdrawn over the past month, barely speaking in class. "Emma, what can I do for you?" Alice asked gently. Emma hesitated, fingers twisting a loose thread on her sleeve. I wanted to talk, if you have time." "Of course. Have a seat." Alice closed her grading folder, giving Emma her full attention. "What's on your mind?" Silence stretched as Emma gathered her thoughts. Alice waited patiently, worry mounting with each passing second. Finally, Emma spoke in a small voice. "It's just, lately I feel so alone. Like no one understands." She glanced up, eyes glistening. "I thought joining Tragedy's Edge would help, but now I'm not sure." Alice's blood ran cold at the name. She'd heard rumors of the site preying on vulnerable teens' insecurities for attention and validation. "Tell me about it," she prompted, keeping her tone neutral. Emma explained how the site encouraged users to film increasingly risky dares in exchange for likes, comments, and follower counts. With each new challenge, her isolation receded as strangers praised her bravery. But lately, the dares had grown too dangerous, leaving Emma anxious and afraid. "I just want to feel special again," she finished in a whisper, "but I don't know what to do." Alice chose her next words carefully, not wanting to scare Emma away. "It sounds like Tragedy's Edge manipulates difficult emotions for their own gain. True connection comes from within, not some counter on a screen." She leaned forward, holding Emma's gaze. "You are special, with or without dares, and you have people who care. Like me, please promise you won't do anything unsafe for that site." Emma nodded hesitantly, though doubt lingered in her eyes. Alice hoped her words had struck a chord, but she sensed the girl's loneliness ran deeper than any conversation could solve. There had to be more she could do to help Emma break free of Tragedy's Edge's toxic grasp. That evening, after finishing her grading, Alice decided to do some digging of her own. She booted up her laptop and navigated to the dark corners of the internet housing Tragedy's Edge and similar haunts. Disturbing posts and live streams assaulted her, showing just how far the site preyed on vulnerable youth. As she scrolled, a video caught her eye. A live feed from the woods near Emma's neighborhood. A lone figure wandered amid the trees as night fell, flashlight beam dancing over gnarled branches. Alice's blood ran cold. It was Emma. She pulled up the site's contact page and started typing a furious message to the moderators. But she knew getting through their bureaucratic runaround could take too long. Emma needed help now. Grabbing her coat and keys, Alice raced out into the darkening evening. She followed basic first aid protocols as she drove, trying to keep calm through her rising panic. What was Emma thinking? Live streaming alone in the woods at night. The dares must be escalating dangerously if she resorted to such risks. The woods loomed up ahead, shadows deepening under the skeletal trees. Alice parked and hurried into the forest, pulling up the live feed to track Emma's location. Flashing lights and the crunch of leaves guided her path as night closed in. "Emma!" Alice called, fighting to keep the fear from her voice. "It's not safe out here. Please, let me take you home." Only the hoot of an owl answered. Alice quickened her pace, breath frosting in the chill. Finally, she spotted Emma up ahead, flashlight beam wavering as she peered into the gloom. "Emma, stop!" Alice cried. The girl whirled, eyes wide. Wilson, what are you doing here?" "I'm worried about you," Alice said gently, approaching with open palms. "These dares are too dangerous. You could get hurt." "But I have to do it," Emma insisted, though doubt tinged her voice. "They said if I complete this one, I'll get 100 new followers." Alice's heart broke at the desperation in Emma's eyes, longing for validation from strangers online instead of real human connection. She had to make the girl see reason before it was too late. "Emma, listen to me. Tragedy's Edge doesn't care about you. Only getting views. Real friendship isn't measured in likes or comments. You're so much more than a number on a screen." Alice took Emma's hands in hers, hoping her sincerity came through in the dark. "Please, let me help you. End this dare and come home where it's safe. You don't have to feel alone anymore." Emma's lower lip trembled, flashlight wavering in her shaking grip. For a long moment, only the hoot of owls and rustle of branches filled the tense silence. Then, with a sob, Emma threw herself into Alice's arms. The live stream cut out as Emma's flashlight hit the ground. Alice held the girl tight, rubbing her back soothingly until her tears subsided. When Emma pulled away, her eyes shone with a new resolve born from shattered illusions. "Take me home, Miss Wilson. I'm ready to stop feeling alone." Alice smiled, relief flooding through her. "You're not alone anymore, Emma. I promise." She switched off Emma's discarded flashlight, plunging the woods into deeper gloom. As they made their way back to the car, Alice vowed she wouldn't rest until Tragedy's Edge and all its toxic imitators were shut down for good. Emma deserved so much more than an online game of risk and reward could ever offer. This was only the beginning. The next morning, Alice arrived at school early to check on Emma. She found the girl waiting outside her office, eyes red, rimmed but determined. "I want to stop feeling alone for good," Emma said. "Will you help me?" Alice smiled. "Of course. But it starts from within." Emma nodded, a small smile breaking through. With that fragile hope kindled, Alice got to work on her real mission, exposing Tragedy's Edge. She started by combing social media for clues. Disturbing posts chronicled teens lured into dangerous dares, seeking validation through risk instead of health. Comments oozed with toxic positivity, praising even life. Threatening stunts. Alice's heart sank further with each discovery. The site's manipulations ran deeper than she imagined, preying on insecurity through an insidious positive reinforcement cycle. But she was missing the puppet masters pulling the strings. There had to be more. After school, Alice hacked into the site's backend, careful to cover her tracks. Coded messages and account ledgers soon revealed the true scope of Tragedy's Edge. not just an edgy social platform, but a monetized exploitation ring. The puppet masters weren't faceless after all, but people profiting off vulnerable youth. She followed money trails to shadowy offshore accounts, connecting the dots between dares, views, and withdrawal amounts. Rage and disgust warred within Alice at their callous profiteering from human lives. But she had no time to dwell on anger. Emma's next dare was tonight, riskier than before. Alice had to warn the authorities, even if they dragged their feet. She compiled a damning evidence packet and rushed to the police station. "We understand your concerns, Mrs. Wilson," the sergeant said, barely glancing at the files. "But without proof of direct harm, our hands are tied. Social media monitoring isn't a priority." Alice's frustration boiled over. Direct harm. These dares already pushed a girl to the brink of death for likes. By the time you act, it may be too late. The sergeant sighed. "I suggest focusing your efforts on supporting the girl through approved channels. Good day." Alice stormed from the station, seething. The system was failing. Emma and countless others. She had to take matters into her own hands before the puppet master's game claimed its final victory. That night, Alice hurried to Emma's house. The girl's mom answered, wringing her hands. Emma's locked herself in her room since getting home. "She won't answer or eat. Please try talking to her." Alice knocked gently. "Emma, it's Ems. Wilson. May I come in?" Only silence answered. Alice tested the doorknob, unlocked. She entered to find Emma huddled on her bed, staring vacantly at her phone. Tragedy's Edge glowed on the screen, live comments scrolling endlessly. "Emma, look at me." Alice sat beside her, taking the phone. "The dares end tonight. You're so much stronger than some game." Emma met her eyes, tears spilling over. "But I'll be nothing without it. No one will care about me." That's not true. Alice showed Emma the evidence against Tragedy's Edge. These people don't care. They're exploiting you. Real friends see your worth, not a number of likes. You have so much to offer the world. Emma's lower lip trembled. "It's too late to stop now. I have to do this last dare or they'll forget me." Alice took Emma's hands firmly. "Then we'll face them together. But the dares end tonight, one way or another." Emma searched her eyes, hope and fear warring within. Finally, she nodded. "That's my girl," Alice thought proudly. Now for the final showdown. She messaged the moderators, challenging them to a live debate on their manipulation. To her surprise, they agreed. The puppet masters wanted a public victory. That evening, Alice and Emma arrived at the school auditorium packed with students. Spotlights illuminated the stage, where two men in suits waited, smirks oozing smug confidence. But Alice had truth on her side. She launched into a meticulous takedown of Tragedy's Edge's exploitation tactics, citing evidence of psychological manipulation, profiting off harm, and disregard for consequences. The puppet masters spluttered defenses, but Alice was prepared for every angle. When she finished, stunned silence filled the room. Then, one by one, students started applauding for Emma's courage and Alice's fight to protect them. Hope swelled as the tide turned against the puppet masters and their toxic game. The men slunk off stage in defeat. As cheers erupted, Alice turned to Emma, beaming with pride. "You did it. You're free and stronger than ever." Emma threw her arms around Alice, tears of joy slitting out. "Thank you for believing in me. I'll never feel alone again." Alice hugged her tight, victorious tears in her own eyes. Though the broader fight wasn't over, in this high school auditorium, good had triumphed over evil. And for Emma, for all the students, a new dawn of hope and empowerment had risen at last. David scrolled endlessly through the dark corners of the internet, searching for something, anything, that could help him disappear. For years, he had meticulously curated his digital footprint, carefully controlling what information could be found about him online. But now the control had slipped through his fingers. A few months ago, old messages from his troubled college days had resurfaced, dredging up a past he had worked hard to leave behind. The rumors and accusations spread like a virus, infecting every corner of his online life. No matter how many accounts he deleted or how many sites he scrubbed from search results, the damage was done. His private trauma had been dragged into the harsh light of the digital public square. He couldn't take it anymore. The constant surveillance, the feeling of being watched even in solitary moments. It was suffocating. All he wanted was the freedom to start anew, unburdened by his history. But in today's world, truly vanishing from the internet seemed an impossible feat. That's when he found the site. Hidden deep within the anonymous recesses of the dark web, its nondescript homepage promised what no other service dared: complete digital erasure. For the right price, this mysterious entity called Ava claimed she could wipe away digital footprints so thoroughly that a person may as well have never existed online at all. David was immediately intrigued, yet skeptical. How could anyone truly remove all traces of an identity in this hyper-connected age? It seemed too good to be true, but he was growing desperate, and this could be his only chance at escaping the inescapable web of his past. After days of consideration, David clicked the contact button. A few encrypted messages later, he had arranged a meeting with Ava at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, where such clandestine dealings could occur without prying eyes. The night of their appointment, David parked his old sedan down the street from the dilapidated building and cut the engine, listening to it tick as the heat dissipated into the frigid air. He peered out the window at the structure looming in the darkness, all crumbling brick and broken windows. An eerie yellow glow emanated from within, the sole sign that someone, or something, awaited inside. David steeled his nerves and exited the vehicle, the slam of the car door echoing in the empty lot. His boots crunched over gravel and ice as he approached the warehouse, hands shoved deep in his coat pockets to ward off the chill. At the entrance, he paused, taking a final breath of the cold night before pushing open the heavy metal door. The interior was cavernous and dimly lit by strands of utility lights dangling from the rafters high above. A lone figure stood in the center of the vast space, back turned to him. Even from a distance, David could tell this woman was striking, tall and slender, with long dark hair that fell in waves over the tailored black coat hugging her curves. She must have heard his entrance, yet made no move to face him, as if waiting to be addressed. David cleared his throat. Ava? At the sound of her name, she slowly pivoted, revealing porcelain skin and sharp features that could cut glass. But it was her eyes that gave David pause. Two bottomless pools of ink that seemed to swallow the light and reflect nothing in return. A shiver ran down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. Finally, she spoke, and her voice was like silk over steel. You must be David. I've been expecting you. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach those fathomless eyes. Let's discuss the terms of our arrangement. Shall we? David sat across from Ava in her sparse office, located through a nondescript door at the back of the warehouse. Harsh fluorescent lights cast her face in a sickly pallor, accentuating her otherworldly beauty and the uncanny stillness of her features. She explained the digital erasure process would take several weeks to complete as she methodically dismantled his online persona piece by piece. First, she would delete all his accounts and wipe browsing histories. Then the difficult work of removing him from search engines, archives, and cached pages would begin. It's a meticulous purge, Ava said. Her alabaster hands folded calmly on the desk. But I guarantee that by the end, it will be as if you never existed on the internet at all. You'll have the fresh start you seek. Her assurances unsettled rather than soothed David. Something about Ava seemed too perfect, too controlled, and he found himself scanning for cracks in her polite veneer. As they finalized payment details, David asked how long she had been providing this service. Ava replied smoothly that she had helped dozens of satisfied clients seeking anonymity, launching her business several years prior. Yet when he probed for specifics, she deflected with practiced ease. Her responses only deepened David's unease. After signing the contract, he took his leave, eager to escape Ava's penetrating gaze. But as the warehouse door closed behind him, a nagging thought took hold. Was he truly the first to question her methods so directly? In the coming days, David threw himself into his work as a distraction. But whenever idle moments struck, doubts about Ava crept back, growing louder each time. He began researching her mysterious operation more thoroughly. That's when the inconsistencies started piling up. David could find no legitimate records of Ava's business license or online presence outside the DarkWeb site. Digging deeper, vague traces of her past clients also turned up missing or contradictory stories. The final piece that set alarm bells ringing was an obscure forum post from years ago. A distressed user detailed hiring someone matching Ava's description for digital erasure, only to vanish without a trace shortly after. The unsolved case was chillingly similar to others David discovered with only Ava as the common link. His heart began to race as the ugly truth emerged. Ava had not simply erased these people online. She had made them disappear entirely. A cold sweat broke out across David's skin. What had he gotten himself into? Panicked, he rushed back to the warehouse after hours, hoping to confront Ava. But the cavernous space was empty, the lone office dark and locked. David pounded on the door in vain before slumping against the wall in despair. He was trapped in Ava's web now, with no digital trail left behind and her true nature unknown. David realized he wasn't simply paranoid. He was very likely in grave danger. His only choice was to pursue the disturbing leads alone. Stay one step ahead of Ava's unknown threats and pray he wasn't already too late. David spent sleepless nights piecing together the clues, desperately searching for a way to prove Ava's sinister scheme and escape her clutches. But each new discovery only deepened the labyrinth of lies and missing people she had woven over the years. He decided to stake out the warehouse, hoping to catch Ava unawares. On the third night of surveillance, his vigilance paid off. Just after midnight, a nondescript van pulled up and several large men hauled equipment inside under Ava's watchful gaze. David waited for them to clear out before making his move. With a deep breath to steady his nerves, he entered the warehouse, footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. "Ava," he called out, "we need to talk." At first, only silence answered. David ventured further inside, senses on high alert. That's when a noise came from the back office, a muffled thump, then another. He rushed over and tried the door. It creaked open to reveal Ava bound and gagged atop her desk, eyes wide with fear and rage. Before David could react, a cloth pressed over his mouth from behind. He struggled against the overpowering chemical scent before darkness took him. When David came to, he found himself tied to a chair in the center of the warehouse. Ava now free and pacing before him like a caged animal. Her polished veneer had shattered to reveal cold fury in its place. "You just had to keep digging, didn't you?" Ava spat. "Now you've seen too much. I can't let you ruin all my careful work." David's mind raced as she confirmed his worst fears. "Why are you doing this?" he demanded, stalling for time. Ava laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the high ceilings. "Money, of course. Do you have any idea what people will pay to disappear? And it's so easy when they come directly to me, volunteering as test subjects." She ran a long nail along the scarred surface of the desk. Lingering on old stains David tried not to imagine. "I've been providing a valuable service for years. The authorities will never find all the bodies here." Revulsion and terror gripped David's heart in a vice. He had to make Ava talk, keep her distracted until an opening arose. But it's only a matter of time before you're caught. Why not just stop now while you're ahead? Ava smiled coldly. Because I've come to enjoy the game. The power to end lives with a single action. It's intoxicating. And I'll never give that up. She pulled a syringe from her pocket, eyeing David with a gleam of sadistic pleasure. Don't worry. This will be quick. You'll finally get the nothingness you wanted. As Ava advanced with needle in hand, David's mind raced through desperate scenarios. Then he spotted it, a rusted pipe on the ground, just within reach, if he could maneuver the chair. Bracing himself, David flung his weight sideways with all his strength. The chair toppled over and his fingers closed around the pipe just as Ava lunged. With a wordless cry, he swung upward with every ounce of force. The pipe connected with a sickening crack. Ava staggered back, a dark stain blossoming across her pristine coat. Her eyes went wide with shock before rolling back in her head. She collapsed to the floor in a lifeless heap. David's chest heaved, staring in horror at what he had done. But there was no time. He had to get out, call for help before Ava's accomplices returned. Struggling against his bonds, David inched toward a rusted tool cabinet and got to work freeing himself. As sirens wailed in the distance, homing in on David's frantic 911 call, he surveyed Ava's still form one last time. A twisted part of him was almost impressed by her meticulous charade over the years. But her reign of terror and manipulation was over. David had survived her twisted game, escaping the trap she laid with only his wits and will to survive. Though haunted by all he had witnessed, for the first time in months, he felt free. Free of Ava and her poisonous grasp on his life. His fresh start had come at a terrible cost, but it was finally, truly his.